Hi guys, you're in the right place if you want to learn how to sketch by understanding what you're looking at rather than breaking something down into shapes. Today we're going to be doing this Northern Parula, an amazing photograph done by Rhodri Ford. I'll put her information in the comments of the video. So what you need is your scrap piece of paper and a pen that you're comfortable working with. And I think today I'm just going to use this black one that, I can change the pressure and get different values of the ink for the shading and whatnot. So just run around, find a pen, doesn't matter what color, and your scrap piece of paper. This paper is off-white, so don't ask me why. Okay, so this little guy, gorgeous photograph, small birdie. We can tell by his surroundings because these are spruce branches. He's almost square. In facing us, we see a little bit of the hip and the back curve of the body. We can tell he's twisted a small amount because we've got some shoulder with a little tiny bit of the markings of the wing showing on this side, and then more of the shoulder and more of the wing showing here. Also, you can see that his head is twisted, obviously because of the eye and whatnot, and there is density of the feathers here under the throat as the throat feathers are sort of pushing up against the curve of his shoulder. So by now you're probably all set and organized and we can get going. So with where you start on your paper, see how he's kind of like mostly up and down. So try to start like somewhere in the middle of your page so that we can have space for his tail. You're not drawing his tail on the desktop. Okay, so oh my god, this never gets easy, you guys. Jeepers. Okay, I'm gonna try not to block too much of the picture, and let's not go for a monster bird. But if we start here at the forehead and see how this angle is really open, and this, we want to keep this open because this will really dictate the tilt of his head. Okay, so let's just do his forehead and go back a little bit, and we've got the top of the head, and we want to have like a nice scoop out to show the side of his head, and a couple feathers like sticking out there, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so now see how the his forehead meets his bill here, but then we've got some of these little feathers under his chin further out, and this also helps sort of like indicate the angle of his head. So let's do these throat feathers out a little bit more, and then take this angle down and see how the top part of the bill is pretty level, and then we've got the angle on the bottom. So let's just take this out. And I'm always dicking around with the bill and the angles afterwards, so don't worry about getting it perfect at the beginning. Good Lord, we're not doing, there's no, I was going to say there's no space for perfection. Not on this channel. Okay. So I'm just going to, this looks like a little bit short to me. I might take this out more later. Let's just do his bill and some of the darker feathers around that. And how about we do the placing of the eye and see how large it is compared to the bill, and we want to have this space here. Look at the space from the edge of the bill to this side of the eye and then across this eye. Those almost look the same to me. So what we want to do, and oh, also you guys line up the bottom of his eye with the bottom of the bill. So that'll just kind of like give us some kind of like indicator for placement. And you know me, I always end up having to move things and adjust things and put things in different places later on. But anyway, so don't panic. Though I always feel like I'm saying those words every video. I think it's just what I need to say to keep myself sort of calm. Now there is quite the eye ring. Okay, so there's the tissue around the eye for one thing, and then he's got this white eyebrow. So keep your pen away from that and just make it larger than it needs to be, because what we can do is like later on, if we need to make it we can color it in later to like back it up, you know what I mean? I just have like a little bit of, it's better I think to just sort of leave it larger than what we need, and then we can just color it in rather than realizing that we haven't left enough white space in those markings, and then we're kind of like screwed up, right? And then since we're here, just do light pressure with your pen and just put in a little tiny bit of the shading. You know, we're gonna come back and work the areas obviously a couple of times, but just do light pressure sort of so that you kind of know where you are in the sketch. Let's leave this here, and then okay, how about we go, it always ends up looking like a little chicken. What's this? Oh, you know, God, I'm tempted to do all these corrections now, but I don't think I should. Let's just see if we can get down the body of the bird. Now, this scoop here is important, okay? Because it shows we've got his throat, and then what we're doing is kind of like bumping into his back and his wing and stuff. So see how it's, because he's square to the camera, this is almost directly across. So push this part out here with his other wing, and then down here on the side of his body, and then bring that, this is a nice curve in to show the curve of his tummy. And if doing a big line like this is too scary, then just like make it narrow. It doesn't matter. We can always like push it out a bit later. See how we've got these flight feathers in the wing, and where these are curved because there's density in the feathers here, and then it comes down to the edge of his wing. So we just want to, it doesn't matter if you get these kind of details in there, but it just kind of shows that there is stuff going on with these layered feathers around his wing. And then we've got the hip. This is the side of his body here. Oh, I just thought of something that we should be doing. And I'm not telling you. Okay, let's see. See, where does his hip line up with his... See my crappy printer? All these lines, this is kind of like beneficial. Well, I gotta put his bill out more. Look, if you can kind of do a lineup like that, that would be good. But no worries if you don't, because remember, it always gets to the point where, you know, what we do on our paper is so kind of like different from the reference photo that it's fair enough to just kind of like leave the reference photo and then look at what is correct for the sketch that we've done. I think at this, but this area, this space here, I'm gonna have that like a little bit narrower. I think my birdie looks a little bit stockier than... We've got the white wing bar here, so just keep your pen away from that, and as usual, make that white space bigger than what you think it should be, because we can always make it smaller later, right? And then we've got this gray. See this little bit of shadow under here where the wing is, these long feathers are casting a shadow against his body. So you wanna, if you can manage to have like a good attitude with the bird, he's kind of like head up, interested in Rhodri. He knows that he's getting his picture taken. He wants to see what's going on. And if you can sort of like get that in your sketch, then he's not gonna look flat and boring. He's gonna look like, oh yeah, I see you, you see me, and I see you too. That's what we want to go for. So just use your pen and do light pressure just to get some kind of like shading down. Don't go nuts and cover up your white, but let's just kind of get something down. We'll work on... Oh, I think, look, see how I made him so thick through here? That's too much. That's too much. It should be narrower. I'll have to... I'm gonna have to regret that. Crap. See, it's stuff to fix, right? But, you know, if you've done the same, the thing is that you can, there's always, you know, like I said, there's a point where your sketch doesn't mesh properly with the reference photo, and that's when you gotta say, okay, time to like correct what I've done. But you can do that because you're understanding what you're looking at, right? When you're putting down these markings, try to like just do your lines sort of in the direction that the feathers are growing, instead of, you know, doing them all one. Yeah, he's so fat. Ugh. He's plumped up because instead of it being like a nice warm summer spring day, it's a chilly morning and he's kind of all a little bit, you know, poofy. Okay. I should have an objective for a video where my complaining is 0. That would be something to achieve. See how I haven't put his tail in? Because like I have to figure out if my angle is completely buggered up compared to the reference photo, then his tail is going to look a little bit different. So I don't want to commit, right? Just yet, because that, like, once I put the tail in, I'm kind of like screwed. I think these guys are like little warblers. It's super beautiful. See the nostril, the depth to the nostril, and I'm sure there's a biological technical name for these sensors that are part of that opening, but I have no idea what it is. I was going through my bird book and looking at the topography of a bird and the proper names of all the feathers, and I was thinking, well, I'm not going to remember that. It's a lot easier just to call them bum feathers. So this will, for now, it's not a biology channel. Okay, so choose an area that you want to work on and just start adding more shading and changing up the values of the of what you're laying down, so that he's going to end up with some texture. And I don't want to get screwed up here, because this part around the eye is important. It gives depth. It's also his marking. And I don't know if my eye is a little bit too far back. See how there are two white reflective areas on the lens. So leave 2 on the eyeball that you're drawing as well. And then try to leave a small marking for the tissue around the eye. And then his white eyebrow, which we do want to just very carefully shade around so that we've got some emphasis there, contrast. It's so tricky trying to do your pen marks like and around these areas, because you know the feathers are so tiny, and you know they lie flat and stuff, so it's really kind of tricky to get down something that looks not like skin, you know. Let's give him a little bit of shading under. And remember, like I've done this way too, I don't like this angle here. Because I've made him too thick through the throat. And we want to distinguish the gray from the yellow. So decide on how much pressure you want to put to show that the throat feathers are different from what's on his the head. And break this up when you do this. To show that we've got some black feathers in amongst the yellow and the gray. And this kind of, it's not his cheek, but this patch on the underneath his eye is a little bit darker than the rest of his head, so we just want to make sure we add some of that contrast there. Now, what we can do, or what we will be doing, is when it's time to like properly finish coloring him up, we're gonna go back and really put down a lot more black. Where to sort of like emphasize the contrast between the gray and the black and the white and the yellow. But you know, like when you understand how he's all put together, then I'm not saying that it's easy, but what you can do is like when you're working your own sketch, just fix them up. So there's the darker feathers there down like the side of his head going into his shoulder. You know what? All these feathers are probably pretty close to the same color, but just because of the density and the way his head is turned and whatnot, there's reflected light off some of them and not others. So then we get the different tones through here. And it's those different tones that we want to capture, because that's what when that means that we're using the light properly to show that we've got a turn in his head. God, look how thick his neck is. Okay, so on the edge of your sketch here, I want you to do a couple of these darker markings, because what these are here, these are the darker wing feathers that are the same over here. It doesn't have to be exact, but what we're doing is we're just showing that this is his shoulder and this is his wing feathers on this part. And then this is a little bit lighter, and then we've got and across, see, we've got the wing feathers, and then there's this light part, which is this here, and then we've got into his chest. Now, depending on the angle that you've drawn for your own sketch, you might see more or less of the shoulder and the turn, right? Okay, so let's choose kind of the value that we want to use to indicate the yellow, and just work on the yellow chest markings, because you just want to make sure that it's different from you know, the rest of his tummy and the gray of his shoulders. And when we go light at first, then we're not committed to a certain value, and we can make adjustments later. Look, I've done his hip too big. Okay, and this part is gray on his shoulder. Okay, now we've got shadow that we want to do to show the curve of his, this, he's got quite a bit of a shadow there, and it's just where the feathers are not actually lying flat. So just shade him up. You know that he's casting a shadow under his bum, and we want to show the curve of his tummy. I kind of like my pen to, this is like, he's way too curved here. I have to give him a tail so that he doesn't look so weird. Okay, so the tail feathers, they're all stacked, see that? Well, just with the angle and whatnot. So we just make it kind of thick, and these couple of borders with the dark tail feathers, and then shadow as well. See, we've got a random feather sticking out here, which I think we can just not worry about too much. And then this kind of should be less of a curve. We want to have these feathers curling around the curve of his body. We are going to figure out some of these spruce needles, okay? So don't panic. We can just put those in a bit. Okay, so now I don't know about you, but I've got like major correcting to do. So what I'd like you to do now is just start in one area and go back and start fixing them up, because maybe the angles aren't great, or you know, maybe you're super happy with your sketch and you want to just start putting in those darker tones, which is what I'm going to do right now. I want to go back up and fix them up and put in more of the shading. See, there's light reflecting on this leg, but this leg is almost all in shadow, so have that fairly dark. And yeah, where do I want to go? He needs like a lot of work. But as long as he looks like a little bit interesting to you, then that's okay, right? I mean, not my sketch, your sketch. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to make any more corrections around the border for his head, as I feel like I've sort of like made that a little bit too large to begin with. Well, that's okay. We just keep working them. I kind of like the way this black pen is working for me today. See how, like, if you do this contour around his eye, it really helps give definition to his face. I think I made that black patch a little bit too large. I have to be careful. I want to leave that alone. It does kind of have a little bit of a black collar going on here. You know, like, I have to say, I always feel like I do a little bit of a sketch, and then the whole rest of the video is a bloody rescue mission. You know, it's like, but I mean, I think that the key is just to sort of like end up with something that is like not too deplorable. I'm so surprised that I made him so wide, because I really thought, oh, I'm gonna make him too tall. That's what I thought when I started. I'm telling myself, okay, don't stretch him out too much. Instead, what I did is I squashed him a whole bunch. And then if you can just add a little bit of like shading and stuff like that through the chest, all this does is it just really shows how those feathers are sort of not lying perfectly flat, and that there are different, you know, shadows and shading in there and stuff like that. And then you know, as we add pressure with our pen and we change the tones, then that affects everything else. So if you need to alter the shading for his tummy and the curvature of his body, go ahead and do that too. Okay, so how do you want to handle all these spruce needles? Hands up, people. What are we gonna do? Okay, let's just make a bunch of spruce needles around him. Don't just make sure that you don't have any actually like poking into him, because you know that wouldn't be very comfortable for him landing, right? Don't you think I should do a tree video? Oh well, okay. We've got enough knowledge to actually like do his feet around a regular branch. We could have done that. Thankfully, I didn't think of that until now. I just want to make sure that we've got him stuck in something that doesn't, you know, does kind of do a good job. Because I don't even know if, yeah, you can't see his feet at all. And saying that we've got enough knowledge to do his toes and his legs and everything is BS, because I sure don't want to tackle that without. Okay, just kind of like fill him in around there. I'm going to just use our spruce needles to distract from our sketch. Okay, let's just get the basics down, right? You got the markings for the wing. There's some little shading there. We've got the curvature of his hip. We've got reflected light here where it's like, and we've got our shadow. I guess we could make a few of these needles a little darker underneath them. Okay, but I am not satisfied with the way he looks, so if this was a phone call, I'm sure you would have hung up a long time ago, but I just want to keep working him a little bit because I want to add we know where the contrast needs to be. We know that we need to we know where we need to add the shading. We know where the black is and where we want to increase the contrast with his markings. We've got a nice eyebrow. We've got some reflected light on the top of his head. And you know what? If you end up shading him so that he doesn't even look like a Northern Parula, so what, right? we've got the angle, we're working on the markings, we're working on the contrast, we've got his head turned, we've got the shoulder, we've got some reflected light on his cheek. Oh, why does my pen? I've got a little bit of a darker color. The turn of the body. You know, I always tend to go back and forth with my pen, and I think what I should do is get a little bit more comfortable with picking my pen up so that I'm not actually, so I'm able to sort of like get a bit more like definition. And what I'm talking about is trying to just break up these feathers through the curvature of the throat. I feel like I haven't really, when I go back and forth with my pen, it doesn't work as well. So if I pick up my pen when I make those markings, I'm getting an effect, I think, that's a little bit, no, it's a bit too late because I think I kind of like overdid it with the collar before. Let's pull this down a little bit. Now my sketches, he's a lot bigger, right? So I'm kind of like having other areas to, larger areas to shade. You know, we're not rushing. Oh, okay, so you know what? Have a look at the white patch that you've done around his eye. And it's totally okay to leave it a lot larger than what you think, because it does give, like, that white eye ring does give quite a bit of you know, definition and character and stuff to your sketch. What I mean to say is that when I did a quick ink painting of a bird, and the white eye ring, even when I was doing the painting, I thought, oh, this is like way too big, this looks stupid. But I didn't narrow it down, and I tell you, it was probably like the best feature of the painting. So if you got white marking, if this part is too big or whatever in your sketch, leave it. Leave it, leave it, leave it. You can always tone it down tomorrow if you feel like it needs to be brought down a little bit. I don't know how to sort of like show that this yellow is different from the white and the gray. I think I need to, on my sketch, I need to bring the yellow patch down a little bit more. How come I've got, geez, this hasn't been blended properly. I just have to sort of like bring these two areas together a little bit better. Okay, okay. Big fat little birdie. What does yours look like? I think it's probably like better than this. Are you kind of happy with the angle that you got? Oh, see, when I go the back and forth, I'm getting these hooks in the, and I don't want that. I don't want that. Boy, why does my brain work so much better when I'm doing stuff upside down? I'm sorry. Well, you're not supposed to be following me anyway. You're supposed to be doing your own thing with the reference photo. But truly, I know I've told you this before, I do so much work upside down, except for my calligraphy. I'm not at the point where I'm writing my calligraphy upside down. That would be something. Okay. How does this... Okay, so here we are with a sketch that doesn't look very much like the reference photo. Okay, so if that's your case as well, what you got to do is, if that's the point that you're at, you've got to look at your sketch and see what is appropriate to fix. Well, not fix, but just like sketch properly, right? In your on your paper. Is the tail okay? Look how fat I made his tail, but I mean, to me that works because the rest of him is so thick. It's kind of like a close-up. Did you enjoy doing the spruce needles? Don't make them all the same shade, just emphasize like one side of the needle so that you've got some contrast in those as well. Okay, throat is too thick and his head is too thick and his body is too thick. But otherwise, And then this shoulder and these ankles should sort of like line up. I'm just fussing and stuff. God is in the details. Okay. Should we leave it at this? Yeah, I think so. You know what? I kind of like them. And yes, I'm saying that with shock and awe in my voice. No, I'm just like messing around here, shading his tummy and stuff. I really don't need to be doing this. I think we're done. Okay, you guys. As always, thank you so much for your company. I really, despite all my whining, I really do enjoy doing these videos, and they certainly help my art skills. though you may not be able to tell. Okay, thanks you guys. As always, like, comment, show me your work. I'd love all that. Have a fabulous day. I'll see you next time.